Hi all, this is Simona Rich. In this video, I'm going to analyze the natal chart of Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't watch Bollywood movies, but for the purpose of research, I did watch the movie that when I was very small, I did watch actually. It was Titanic, and I watched several of Leonardo interviews. Since I'm not very much familiar with Hollywood stars, it's always good to do that to really understand where the person is at, because in astrology you may see the chart, but you need to determine the development level of a person, because the chart shows symbols and they will manifest in different ways depending on where spiritually the person is at. So basically I was just trying to get the feel of that person to interpret his chart accordingly. So the chart, from what I've heard about him, I would say that his ascendant should be in the first degrees of Virgo rather than Libra. Libra is still staying in the first house, but since it has an AA rating in astro.com, I'm going to leave it at that, and I will interpret it according to the official chart. So officially his ascendant is in Libra, which makes him a people person. And also this is confirmed by Sun being in conjunction with Venus, which means that he is going to relationships are going to be very important to him, and he will change himself according to he will change himself so that he would be perceived better by people, so that he would be liked more by people. So people's opinions of him would influence his behavior and appearance, though it may not actually change his inner core, because it's very fixed. We can see Capricorn on the cusp of the 4th house, and Saturn being in the 10th house, which is its house, yet it's in its detriment in Cancer, which makes him attached to family roots and history. So his personality can change a lot, his external personality, though who he is deep within may remain unchanged. So he is very much relationship oriented. Relationships are very important to him, and through relationships he can transform himself. Relationships may cause, because of the Pluto in Libra, transformation of his psyche, though he may try to avoid that by choosing partners that may not be as powerful, whom he may know would not influence him so much if he doesn't want to transform himself. But actually, because of his Pluto in the first house, he can easily transform himself to become like a reborn human being. That's the potential of Pluto in the first house. It's a very intense placement, and we can see that in his eyes. When you look at his eyes, you can see that there is so much intensity, and there is so much that he doesn't show, which is again something that Pluto in the first house gives, is the feeling that the person doesn't say much about them, that there's so much to know about the person, but they are just not disclosing it. And it's so just below the surface, but the surface can be very calm, yet there's a lot of depth in that personality. And we can see that Pluto is in conjunction with Moon. Let's see the degree of the conjunction. Orb is +7 degrees, 30 minutes. So it's not like a very powerful tight conjunction, yes, yet it will definitely be felt, because Pluto is so intense, and both of these planets represent something that is hidden, like subconscious, yet because it's there in his first house, it's going to be more visible. So for example, his friends may be able to see what drives him subconsciously, though to himself it may not be revealed, depending on whether he wants to work on himself. So if, for example, Leonardo DiCaprio is not transformed, doesn't want to, face his darkness, then it will be that he will suffer from many compulsive behavioral traits, habits that he cannot control, impulses that he doesn't understand, and he will just be the plaything of all these unconscious things, which could be also sexual addictions very easily, because Pluto is involved. Then he will just remain at their control. But if he tries to understand those subconscious impulses, what drives them, then he will be faced with a lot of internal darkness. That's what is shown by Pluto in the first house. And he will, if he can process this darkness, facing it as it is without trying to run away from it, then he has the potential of becoming totally transformed. And then Moon and Pluto will function very differently in his life, because as long as the inner transformation did not take place, then he will not be able to control some of the emotional displays, some of the habits that he has, some of the impulses that he has. He will just be the slave. Yet if he allows Pluto transformation to happen, then Pluto will no longer cause problems by exaggerating moon traits, for example, but actually it will enhance the good qualities of the moon, which is nurturing. So if he would transform himself, he would become the best partner ever, very emotionally rich, yet nurturing, very much caring for the partner. And this is also confirmed by the planet Venus trining Saturn. So he has the potential of becoming very loving, but there's just so much transformation that needs to take place, even where Venus is located. It's in Scorpio, so it's a bad placement for Venus. It's the detriment of Venus, and it means that the whole sexual nature needs to be transformed, because now it operates on a very low level. It's just about the physical aspect of love, but it's at least it's well aspected, and it has the potential to be transformed into something very intense, emotionally deep, as well as long lasting. But what's required is his willingness to face the dark side, because if he doesn't face the dark side, then only the negative qualities of the planets will predominate. And since Venus is located in the second house in conjunction with the Sun, and Mars is there too, this could give him, when it comes to love, for example, this can indicate some person who is determined, who is kind of like a collector. Such people may get new partners because this gives them more self-esteem, like to be seen with very beautiful people, and they may actually be very possessive. So he may be possessive towards those partners and may consider them his property even though they are no longer with him. So it's about being seen by beautiful women because it raises his self-esteem, but actually what it really does is lowers it. But people who don't work on themselves, they will not understand this, so it would just become another habit of his to date different kinds of women, and I know that he does. So this for me shows that he is not facing his dark side, he is not transforming his personality yet, but he's just being controlled by those habits and impulses. And as long as he's controlled by those habits and impulses, he's not really in control of his life, though he could easily be in control of his life if he could just face the dark side. Because Pluto is such a powerful planet to have in the first house. I mean, you can feel his intensity. I'm sure that if in real life Leonardo DiCaprio would look at you, you would feel that power, because Pluto is a very powerful planet, but is the god of the underworld. So it will work negatively as long as you don't transform it. It can keep you focused on things that are dark, things that are sexual, just things that are forbidden, and it can drag you down. But if you it would only do so if you don't allow it to transform you. We can also see that he has both Mercury and Uranus in the 29th degree of Libra, which can give him, it's actually a degree, particularly talking about Libra, which can give relationship problems, like suddenly getting into relationships without much thinking, and then it could lead to sudden breakups, quick breakups. It's also the sign of divorce, so this should be taken into account, because it's so important to know your chart, because if you know that this is the danger, you can just then be more thoughtful about the relationships, because you're already in advance know that you may quickly jump into relationships. And this is also the sign that he seeks for freedom, especially intellectual freedom in relationships. And it's also the degree of indecisiveness, and especially it's to do with the Libra sign, which is already indecisive. So it could be that he's very much doubting about what action to take, and then it could be that once he decides on something, at the last minute he changes his mind and does the very opposite. So this is the degree that can give that kind of trait to a person. Moving to the second house, this shows that if it's indeed Scorpio, it could be in Libra, as I said. It may be that his birth time is a little bit off. But let's see, this is a correct chart. This would give him very secretive nature about his finances. So he may be obtaining finances in ways that are not reported, in ways that he would rather keep secret. He doesn't disclose exactly how much he owns. He wouldn't feel comfortable if people know exactly how much he's worth. And if his ascendant is indeed Libra, it places the ruler of the ascendant in the house of finances, which would make him which would mean that his self-esteem depends on his skill set and his earning ability. So if he earns well and if he is recognized for his skills, he naturally will have a higher self-esteem. And so he worked very hard to become an excellent actor, and as a result he earned a lot of money, and so this raises his self-esteem to a great degree. So if he would earn less and if he would not be acknowledged as a good actor, he may have an extremely low self-esteem, because you can see that Moon is squared by Saturn, which is the signature of low self-esteem. And it could be that, for example, work is very hard, and if it's not accepted by the public, he feels totally down. Or it could also mean that this particular combination could mean that father and mother disagreed with each other, that there was some kind of loss in the family or strict family upbringing, very traditional, or he was given lots of duties as a child, lots of burdens, not like normal children. And this kind of combination may make it difficult for him to create his own family and be happy. So there would be hurdles after hurdles to overcome to have his own good family, and maybe he sees it and he may not actually have his own family because of Saturn placed in the sign of Cancer. So Saturn suppresses what it touches and gives obstacles and delays. So it could mean Saturn placed in Cancer could mean delay in having family, unwillingness to have family, obstacles in having family, the feeling that when you're thinking about having your own family, you may feel like it's going to be too much burden or just too many difficulties. So this is not a good placement for people who want to have their own family. And I forgot to mention that Moon conjunct Pluto can give a very controlling mother, and as a result he may have difficulties in having a successful relationship because of the controlling mother. Now, still discussing the second house, we can see that Mars is there too, and Venus and Sun is there. So his self-esteem depends on how much he earns. He's a collector. He can be very attached to the things that he owns because of Scorpio being on the cusp of the second. He loves beautiful things. And he can spend a lot for beautiful things, and he can exert much energy to obtain that which he considers beautiful, and it's very hard for him to let go of things that he likes. It's very difficult for him to do so, and he not only earns a lot, but he also spends a lot. Moving to the third house, it's in Sagittarius, and the ruler of the house is Neptune, since it's there. And this makes him it's a sign that can give love of humanity, the mental inclination towards doing good things for the world, compassionate nature, and it's also related to his purpose of life. As you can see, the North Node conjuncts Neptune, so it can give it can give him the need to love the whole humanity rather than one person, and it may make it difficult for him to have boundaries with people in the vicinity. This kind of placement can give siblings that you don't know about, or something strange to do with your siblings, some strange situation. It also is the sign of an actor, because when you have Neptune in the third house, it's influencing your mind and your environment, and it makes you very susceptible to the influences around you. So when you are extremely sensitive to those influences, you can easily absorb them and project them. So it's good if you have good influence, if your neighborhood is good, if you find yourself with good people. But if you don't, then it can make you the product of your environment, bad product of your environment. But it also, this is the placement that can give the ability to copy another person's behavior, and this is an excellent trait for actors, of course. I already discussed the cusp of the fourth. This is an important placement to always check, because it influences the root of his being, which makes him a very strong person, because Capricorn is a very strong sign, and then it's placed in its own sign. Saturn is placed in its own, in its own house. So it gives a big strength to it, though it's placed in a bad sign for it. But it can make a person very resilient and very strong. And of course, how many people are broken being in the Hollywood industry, but he has it all together. From the way that he speaks, I don't notice any inconsistency. He's a strong personality. Of course, he has the dark side to transform, but he's a very strong personality, and I don't think you can survive in the Hollywood industry without being strong, because as we can see, so many actors get into drugs and they become a mess. But he still has it all together, and he's now 45 as I've checked his age, so this is really amazing. So it shows that no matter what happened to him at work, whilst he was being trained, because we know also that children experience much abuse in when they start young in the Hollywood industry, and I'm sure he also experienced that, but he survived. And we can see that since the 10th house is about the career, and we find Saturn squaring the moon in the first house, it could mean that directly he was hurt emotionally. There's some kind of big emotional trauma. We can see that from Pluto and moon conjunction, but it could mean that at work he experienced abuse and it affected his self-esteem. So it may have taken a lot to overcome hardships at work. But he was able to do this nevertheless, and to stay strong. So this kind of placement also shows that he thinks work to be his family, maybe work colleagues, maybe the environment. This is something that is very familiar to him, and he respects that, and he just feels like work is his home. Career is just gives that feeling of stability, of his root. So this is maybe the only family that he will really have. I don't know, but pretty much he considers work to be his kind of his comfort zone. We find that the cusp of the 5th house is in Aquarius. Aquarius is conjunct Mercury in Libra in the 1st house. So it could be that he likes his free time to be about some kind of, it could be some kind of unusual mental pursuit, something that is not ordinary, or spending time in company or with some partner, and it could be also about bettering his career. So he may like to do something in his free time which actually contributes to the progress of his career. Now we find Lilith in conjunction with Jupiter in the 6th house, and Lilith of course has tricky energy. It can easily be abused, but it's also sexual energy. So for his work, he has the sexual appeal, so it works out for him, and this indicates that luck comes through daily work, through what kind of habits he has, through the service that he gives to the world. it's great that he's an actor, because this kind of placement indicates that he should be doing something creative with his life. And the picture in the movie industry is great because Pisces is connected with that. So movie industry is good for him. And having Jupiter in the 6th house strongly placed in Pisces is also an indicator of big earning ability. So he has two of such indicators, because Venus is also in the 2nd house. So basically this means that he has great potential to earn a lot of money, and as long as he works, he is going to be lucky and there will be opportunities for him. But there could also be, because of the square to Neptune, and it's a tough one, tight one, it could mean that there could have been some discipline problems, but they could have been easily overcome because of the Jupiter's trine to midheaven, and also he has Mars trining Jupiter. So this could mean that if he just exerts himself, he would be able to overcome some laziness, but it wouldn't take much for him to really become more organized or determined in his work. This placement also indicates that he could have some kind of healing ability. So this again would come if he would transform himself, if he would be willing to face his dark side and would be reborn, so to speak. He would find himself to have healing ability. So this is the placement that can give spiritual healer, for example. And now moving to his 7th house, I've already discussed that some things I already discussed about his relationships, but this means I've already read about him that he goes for very young women considering his age, and that's quite natural for people who have Aries on the cusp of the 7th, because Aries is about energy and it's the energy of youth. So he may be attracted to that young energy. And since his ruler of this 7th house is in the 2nd house, it means that women may financially benefit him, that he may be attracted to women who are quite wealthy. And this also makes him a possessive person. So it means that when he dates someone, he may consider that person his personal property. So he may be jealous, and he may just treat the person as his personal property. So this is something to be aware of if you have such a placement. And he would like women who are energetic and passionate, young, and they may be competitive, maybe somewhat impulsive, and just have that energy, that attractive energy of just going for what you want. And now moving to the 8th house, it's ruled by Taurus, materialistic Taurus, and the ruler of the 8th house is again in the 2nd house, which means that yet again it confirms that women may benefit him financially, intimate relationships may benefit him financially, and business partnerships are good for him. They are going to benefit him financially, often for the long term, and there could be an ability to manage the resources and finances of all kinds of resources of other people, and to make use of the abilities and resources of other people. Now moving to the 9th house, its ruler is located in the 1st, which means that he may undertake journeys to other continents for the sake of learning something, for the sake of exploration. He may be intellectually interested in certain places, so he may visit, he may travel for that. Midheaven in Cancer could mean that the person will think that his work is so familiar, it's like family, and it could give work that is related to women, working from home, cooking. It could give work that is very familiar to the person, something that he grew up with. He could inherit work from his family. Maybe some of his family members did something similar. It shows that this person values history and tradition and values his family origins and the traditions. He may find it difficult to transcend some of the traits he inherited from the family, and it could be very visible for people who know him that he is bringing, how to say, that he's not willing to let go of the qualities imparted to him by his mom or by his father. He could remain similar to the way that he was brought up, like his values may be the same. His 11th house is ruled by the sun. We find the sun being in the 2nd house again, which means that he derives his self-esteem from also how he is perceived by his friends, from social engagements, and this is also shown that his friends may be famous. Of course they are. His friends may be creative and optimistic individuals, and also they may financially benefit him. So the more social he is, the more friends he makes, the more financially better off he may be. Now the 12th house ruler is in his 1st house, which yet again confirms that his subconscious impulses are very obvious to other people, and he should examine them because they give him an opportunity to transform himself. So there's so much in his subconscious, and it's so visible. It's like just beyond the surface. That's why he feels so intense. The personality is so intense, because we see that the ruler of the 12th is in the 1st house, Pluto is there, Moon is there, so it's all about the subconscious impulses and dealing with the subconscious. So it's there just beyond the surface, and he must examine it. He must learn what the subconscious content is, because if he is not afraid to face it, then he can really transform himself, and his personality would be reborn, and he would become like a much better version of himself, much better, much more understanding, caring, very integrated, and with the dark impulses gone, with the darkness, the habits, the impulses that control them gone. They would be totally cleansed, were he not afraid to face it. So this is one of the major things he must do, because there's just so intensity in his personality, and that's for a reason, because he's supposed to process those that darkness within the impulses that motivate him, the secrets, unknown things, traumas. All of them are just beyond the personality, and he can access that and he can transform that. And I hope that he would do it, because then life will no longer be about habits he cannot control, but it's going to be the next level of life. The whole life will become so much more meaningful if he would do that. So I wish him all the best in transforming himself, because he has great potential to do good to the world if he is willing to let go of the personality that he knows and face that which is just beyond the surface. So that's all for his natal chart, for the natal chart of Leonardo DiCaprio. I do apologize if I pronounce his name and surname wrong. I'm not watching Hollywood stars much, so I don't know how to pronounce their names. But this is a powerful chart, and I do hope that he will use his potential. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Take care.